I still find it odd that of season 2 right now, the episode that has the most views is the one where I say that Sonic and Sally have a frank discussion of sex. I don't know if it's just because of the art or if it's because you people really like hearing me have a discussion of sex. So, sex. Sex, 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 sex. Fornication. Thank you. Earthly balance. Donovan wandered blindly through a darkened cave deep underground. He had been fighting Kravinoff and had been about to kill by him, but he had fallen into a hole covered by a bush just as the Kravinoff struck. He was safe, for the moment at least. Donovan cursed bitterly as he stubbed his toe on a stone. Since the race began, he had been doing nothing but chasing the Kravinoff. He hadn't even been taking care of himself. His vest was tattered and torn, his shades cracked. He looked and smelled like he hadn't taken a bath in weeks, and a coarse beard had taken up residence on his chin. You know, beards on furries always look weird, but then again, Uncle Chuck has a mustache, so... But perhaps the greatest change was occurring inside. His purple eyes had begun to adopt the same aspect of madness as shown in the Kravinoffs. His thoughts, once almost purely rational, were full of pain and anger. Everything I've done had next to no effect on that thing, he thought. I can't wait until the time comes so we can get rid of him. It can't come soon enough. He continued his ramblings, not really caring where he was going. He would have teleported back to his base by now. Since the Kravinoff had wrecked his teleporter, as well as most of his other inventions, even his boots weren't working right. He walked around for over an hour. He knew there was a vast series of interconnecting tunnels under Mobius, some of them over 20 miles long. He had no way to tell where he was or what direction he was going. In a normal rested state, Donovan would have been able to get out in a matter of minutes. But in his current condition, there was no telling how long he'd be wandering around down there. Just then, Donovan noticed a change in the tunnel ahead. It was lit by a soft green light, a welcome change to the darkness he was currently in. He headed toward it, hoping that it was a way out. It wasn't even close. The light emanated from a small rock pedestal in the middle of a large cave. Donovan walked to the pedestal and was surprised what he saw. A small green gem was laying with evident care in the hollow part of the rock. Donovan reached for the gem, a dark smile on his lips. A few weeks passed. In Knothole, Sally was sitting under a tree, enjoying the first few hints of an approaching fall. The leaves of the trees had begun turning colors. The one she was under had leaves of deep red. The animals in Knothole were busy trying to get the last bit of summer fun out before the weather turned too cold, and Sally was happy to see them. Sally sighed. She wished she could join them, but it was too much she had to do. The race for the emeralds was in its 4th month, but only 2 emeralds had been decided. Robotnik still had the 3 emeralds he was supposed to defend. Nothing he had done found any hint of where they were hidden. Nicole, bring up possible location number 10, she said, opening her computer up. Accessing now, Sally, Nicole said. I'm just imagining now Nicole has a little explorer's hat, khaki pants, and a khaki shirt. A hologram of an isolated part of Robotropolis appeared before her. Sally looked at the area from every possible angle, having Nicole manipulate the image every way she could. There were at least 5 good hiding places in that area, but Sally's gut instinct told her they wouldn't find anything. Sally closed up Nicole in frustration. She could spend months searching the images for anything, but would always turn up nothing. She was really getting depressed about this whole thing. Yo, Sal! Sonic yelled, speeding up and stopping right in front of her. Get moving, we got lessons in the dojo in 5 minutes. I don't know, Sonic, she said wearily. I just don't feel like it today. Here we go again, he said. Last time I tried to talk you around. This time, I ain't even gonna bother. He reached up, picked Sally up, tossed her over one shoulder, and walked towards the dojo. Sonic! Sally yelled. What do you think you're doing? Getting your mind off your problems, he asked. On the way, he started tickling Sally's sides. Sally screamed, laughing. She tried to get away, but the more she struggled, the more he tickled her. Finally, she gave up, tears of laughter running down her cheeks. She tried to get furious at Sonic, but just couldn't bring herself to be. For all her worries, she did feel better now. It was great how Sonic could just cheer her up. That was the one reason why she loved him and wanted to be with him. Over in Robotropolis, Robotnik was at his command center, drumming his fingers impatiently. "It's been too quiet lately," he said. "I don't like it." "It's been quiet because the Freedom Fighters can't do anything to hurt you," Metal Sonic reminded him from his seat in front of the monitors. "Still, they should have at least come looking for the emeralds I'm supposed to defend." Robotnik looked at the 3 emeralds in his gloved hands. "Did it ever occur to you that Sonic's uncle is still somewhere in Robotropolis and is searching for them?" "You're probably right," Robotnik conceded grudgingly. "I wonder if I could use his searches as attempts on the emeralds." "I wouldn't. After all, Knuckles did say the Freedom Fighters had to come to Robotropolis to search for an emerald before you could say you defended it. Sir Charles has been here from the start, and didn't he say your emeralds had to be hidden by the end of this year, or you will lose one?" "I know the rules," Robotnik snapped. "Still, I did not want to lose one by forfeit." "Very well. Prepare a report on the best places to hide them and give it to me." "As you wish," Metal Sonic grumbled a bit to himself, but did as he was told. At around the same time, Tannis was in Sanctuary, sitting behind the altar. Every day since the race began, he prayed for guidance. He knew he had to be neutral. It was his job after all, but his heart wished otherwise. "What I wouldn't give to be able to see Rosie again," he thought. "After so long of not being with her, the time we spent together wasn't enough. I wish I could forget, if only for a time, that I am a Holy One." Let's see. Trixie, what would you say is a shonen anime level of number of characters? Trixie always puts it at 15. Right, I think we've already reached that number. A rumble shook Sanctuary. Tannis sighed. "Forgive me, Almighty One," he prayed. "It was a momentary weakness, nothing more. I shall continue to be faithful in my duties." "Dude, I think you need a new god. May I recommend Samurai? Or my personal favorite goddess, Elstray? I mean, granted, she walks around naked all the time, but she is a good goddess." The second subsided, and Tannis was filled with a peace he had not felt in months. "I had been called for something," he thought, "but yet I am to wait here. This makes no sense." The main doors of Sanctuary flew open, and Tannis stood and looked, trying to see who or what was doing it. A familiar shape stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the sunlight. "Who's there?" Tannis called. "Has it been that long since you've seen me that you don't remember who I am?" Donovan asked as he stepped into the Sanctuary. Tannis stood there for a few moments, shocked by Donovan's appearance and mannerism. "What happened to you?" Tannis asked. "You look like—" "I've been busy," Donovan snapped. "Fighting the Cravenough, most likely," Tannis said, composing himself. "Take care you don't become what you're fighting." "I'm not here for any advice," he said angrily. Then, seeing the hurt look on Tannis' face, he made an effort to compose himself. "Forgive me, Tannis. It's been a long time since I was around anyone I care about." "I understand. So tell me, what brings you to Sanctuary?" Donovan sat down heavily on a nearby bench. "I need to speak to both Robotnik and Silly at the same time. I thought it'd be best to do that here." "Can I ask what this is all about?" "I believe I can answer that," Knuckles said, stepping from the shadows. "Holy hell! How did you? I'm Knuckles. I'm also a Misfit." Donovan clapped his hand to his forehead. "How did I know you would be here, Guardian?" "I'm always here when it concerns one of the emeralds," Knuckles said. "An emerald?" Tannis asked. "By the almighty, Donovan, you've won an emerald?" "Not one," Knuckles interjected before Donovan could speak. You're merely half possessing of it, such as Miss Evergreen had possession of the Water Emerald. I'm here to make sure he understands the distinction. Donovan stood up and looked at Knuckles square in the eyes. First of all, don't ever interrupt me again. Second, I'm fully aware of the rules when it comes to possession of an emerald. Third, I have no interest in possessing an emerald. If I had, I would have one, if not all three of Robotics emeralds by now. Finally, what I intend to do with this emerald is perfectly legal, so you cannot say anything. Knuckles clenched his enormous hands into his fists. I decide what is legal here, Osia, he said menacingly. Don't presume to take my job. I wouldn't want your job if it was the last position on Mobius. I'm just reminding you of the rules, which you gave, and I was here to listen. Gentlemen, Dan said, stepping between the two, remember where you are. If you want to continue bickering like babies, do it outside. Fight, 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 fight! Geese, geese, geese. Both Donovan and Knuckles turned to face Thomas. Never before had either one seen the expression now on his face. An angry one. Both Knuckles and Donovan sat down on the nearest bench, looking like kids about to be scolded. There, now that that's settled, we can get to business. Donovan, I will allow you to use Sanctuary for purposes under 3 conditions. Since when do you use conditions? Donovan inquired. Desperate times call for drastic measures. If you do not want to use Sanctuary, I can tell you of another holy place that might suit your purposes. I hardly thought Knuckles began. Am I speaking to you? Taz asked in an angry tone, and Knuckles carried back. I'll deal with you after I'm done with him. Well, Donovan? Can I speak now? Donovan asked carefully. Go right ahead. Thank you. What are your free terms? Simple. First, when you contact Sally, you must do so through Nadia, not Nicole, and it cannot be a recorded message. What? Donovan interrupted. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. Second, you must have Sally bring Rosie with her. Somebody's horny. Both Donovan and Knuckles raised an eyebrow at that, but Tannis stood firm. Rosie? Donovan asked, why do you want Silly to bring Rosie? Of all people Silly could bring, why Rosie? I have my reasons. Tannis snapped, much as Donovan added earlier. Suffice it to say, they are of a personal nature. I repeat, somebody's horny. Donovan looked at Knuckles. You gonna touch that? He asked. Knuckles shook his head, but didn't risk saying anything. Fine, though I'm afraid to ask what the condition 3 is. That's my secret for the time being, Tannis said. You'll simply have to trust me on this. I really hate surprises, Donovan mumbled. Then he looked at Tannis aside. Very well, I agree to your terms. He looked over at Knuckles and asked, anything you want to add, Chuckles? Knuckles glared at Donovan. You did not grow up with me, so I suggest you keep those names for those who have, he said icily. Did I give you permission to talk? Tannis asked, grabbing Knuckles roughly by the chin. You may not be bound as a holy one by the Covenant, but here in Sanctuary everyone is. One more remark like that from either of you, and you'll find yourselves both in polar ice caps. Donovan, do what you must. You can use your old room. Right now I wish to speak with the Guardian. Alone. Donovan stood up, bowed, and ran to his own room, not looking back even once. Tannis released Knuckles and sat next to him. You didn't have to ground me so hard, Shirat, Knuckles complained, rubbing his chin. It was your idea for me to lose my temper, Tannis reminded him. I've never done that to him before, and I'm surprised at his reaction. Since you raised him, I figured that you were the only one who could do that to him without responding in kind. Tannis nodded. I almost forgotten that we Holy Ones can communicate telepathically with each other. I don't know if that's a cheat, an asshole, an asspull, or a trick. It does come in handy at times. I was coming here anyway to see what he planned to do with the emerald, but seeing how bad he was, I knew you had to act. Tannis looked toward Donovan's own room. Do you think it worked? For the time being. But tell me, why did you come up with those reasons? Tannis smiled secretly. I do have my reasons. As I said, they are of a quite personal nature. Ah, you're horny. Yeah, pretty much. Donovan smiled to himself. Knuckles smiled to himself and left it at that. Donovan closed the door to his own room and leaned against it. I've never seen Tannis act like that, he thought, shaking a little. I better do what I have to, and quickly. He took a communicator from his pocket and tuned it into Nadia's receiver frequency. Sandra and Tails were sitting in her hut, talking about nothing in particular, when Nadia started beeping. What's up, Nadia? Sandra asked, opening her up. I have an incoming message from Donovan, Nadia said, surprised. What do he wants? Tails muttered. Actually, Miles, I need to speak with Silly, Donovan said. Would either you or Sandra mind taking the dean to her, please? Why didn't you send Nicole to directly? Sandra asked. No time for that. Just please do as I ask. Make sure Rosie is with her. I'll get them, Tails volunteered. He opened the door and flew off. Long time no hear, Donovan, Sandra said as they waited. Where are you? No time for small talk, Sandra. This is a very urgent matter. Sandra rolled her eyes. Very well. They waited in silence until Tails came back with the others. They're here. What is it, Donovan? Sally asked, walking into the room. I need both you and Rosie to come to Sanctuary, Donovan said. It is imperative I speak to you here. It concerns the race, but only the two of you may come. That means leaving Nicole and any other computers there. Sally's eyes lit up. We'll be right there. Sandra, Tails, tell the others where we're going, and we'll be back soon. Got you, sis, Sandra said with a thumbs up. Grab on, Rosie. Okay, Rosie said uncertainly. I just wonder what possible reason he has for asking me along. Tannis is horny. Oh. Maybe he's not the one asking for you, Sally murmured as he ran off with Rosie in tow. Let's go, Miles, Sandra said, forgetting in her haste to close Nadia. It was really good talking to you again, Donovan, Nadia said. Strangely enough, her voice held no trace of attitude or sarcasm. Instead, it was actually quite kind and warm. Donovan switched off his computer. A smile crept in on his face, a warm one that lit his eyes. He turned around, hearing a noise behind him, and saw Tannis there smiling at him. There, I've done the first two things, he said, trying to use a hard voice. What's the third? Dude, you're currently got feelings for a computer program. I think we need to talk. Did you contact Robotnik yet? I sent a pre-recorded message to him. Then again, I drew over Agius and Sophia, but that's only because she's humanity's companion. Taz nodded and placed a hand on his shoulder. Then my third condition is to sleep until they get here. Donovan's eyes widened. They quickly closed as Tannis' spell took hold. Tannis let Donovan fall into bed and walked away, still smiling. Donovan looked at Tannis' hand on his shoulder. They're here, he said. Donovan sat up and stretched. You look much better after that nap, Tannis remarked. I feel better, Donovan admitted. I guess I really needed that. Tannis nodded. They're waiting by the altar, Tannis said. When you get there, please send Rosie in here. I'd like to discuss something with her in private. I get it, you're horny. Donovan looked at Tannis for a moment, then sighed, and went outside. Sally and Robotnik were sitting on opposite sides of different benches on opposite sides of the altar. We're here, Donovan, Sally said. Now tell us what you know. Yes, Robotnik agreed. It seems that either you know of an emerald's whereabouts, or currently have one. All in good time, Donovan said, knowing peripherally that Knuckles had taken up a position by the doorway. First, Tannis would like for Rosie to join him in that room. He says they have something to discuss. Rosie walked to that room with a quickness that belied her age. All four stared after her for a moment before returning to the business at hand. Continue, Donovan, Sally prompted. Donovan cleared his throat and shook his head. Robotnik was right. Not only do I know where an emerald is located, I have possession of that same emerald. It is the Earth Emerald, and I have hidden it somewhere for the two of you to find. I've used one of Robotnik's old bases that has long since been abandoned. Of course, I've made a few modifications to it, adding some traps so you'll have to get by, but the basic layout remains the same. As such, Robotnik would have a distinct advantage, so I allow you, silly, to bring along one animal or computer of your choice. What kind of traps? Sally asked, interrupting Donovan. I was getting to that, Donovan said in a controlled voice. These traps are all quite deadly, but there's always a way through. And if for some reason you cannot get through it, you'll be teleported back to the beginning of the maze. Donovan gave 2 tips to Sally and one to Robotnik. I will teleport you there 5 minutes after you reach your home base, if there is nothing else. I must raise a point, Knuckles said. Technically, a battle must be fought over each emerald, but that can be waived only if both of you agree to this contest. If one does not, then I will hide the emerald again. Sally and Robotnik looked at each other. As much as I hate to admit it, this is probably our only chance to find this emerald, Sally said. You know, I am going to forever die on the hill that I'm the only person to give Knuckles an Australian accent. Granted, Idris Elba comes a dang close second to giving Knuckles a cool British-sounding voice. Robotnik nodded slowly. Agreed. Let's return to our home base, as Donovan has said. There's no need, Donovan said, pressing on his button on a remote control. Robotnik disappeared in a flash of light. Wait, what about Rosie? Sally said. Donovan stopped his thumb as he was about to push the button. I'll get to her, he said, heading towards the room. He knocked on the door. Time to go, Rosie. Rosie emerged from the room, walking slightly unsteadily. Oh my god, I was kidding about the horny old people. You, abort! Thank you, Donovan, she said, her voice also a little unsteady. She walked to where Sally stood, and Donovan teleported them out. Donovan peeked inside the room and saw Tana sitting on the bed, facing away from him. He walked around to see his face and saw that his eyes were noticeably crossed. I just wanted to talk, he muttered. Apparently, she had a little bit more than that on her mind. Donovan let out a low whistle. I'll be leaving now, he said, quickly teleporting back to his base. When he got there, he set a 5-minute timer and sat down to wait. I don't know, and I don't want to know, he muttered, thinking about how he'd seen Tannis. In Robotropolis, Robotnik was busy memorizing the layouts to the abandoned bases he felt were most likely to be used by Donovan. He was concentrating especially one that was located near the underground caverns. That has the most complex series of hallways, Robotnik reasoned. Donovan is sure to have chosen it. Uncle Tuck made careful notes, watching Robotnik's every move. I'm not sure what he's doing, but I know the others will want to know about this. At the exact same time, Sally had called an emergency meeting in the war room. I don't have much time to explain, she said, quieting everyone down. Let's just say Donovan has an emerald and is giving us a shot to get it. Any volunteers to come with me? Need you even ask, Sal? Sonic asked. I'll go anywhere you want me to. I don't know, Sonic, Sandra said. I know Donovan best, so maybe I should go. And that's exactly true, Antoine said, rising from his seat. Donovan and I go back farther than anyone else. I should be the one to accompany you. I'm not letting Sugar Twine going anywhere without mine, Bunny said. Sally looked around, frustrated. I can only bring one, she said, and that includes computers. Then perhaps I should come, Sally, Nicole said from the table. No way, I'll go, Nadia said. A full-scale argument broke out at that point. Sally tried to make herself heard above the racket, but everything was too loud. Lydia stood up and took stiff fingers in her mouth. She let out a loud, high-pitched whistle that stopped everyone from talking. No matter how you look at it, it's your call, Sally, she said. If you can't pick, why not draw straws or pick a number? Sally nodded. Brother, can I borrow your cap? Sure, Sally, he said, giving it to her. Sally took a sheet of paper and tore it up into 16 pieces. She numbered each one, crumpled them up, and placed them in a cap. Whoever wants to come, pick a number. After all are drawn, I'll choose one at random. She laid one of Donovan's chips on the end of the table. If I call your number, take the chip. As soon as she set the cap down, every hand there reached for a number. A number was also placed to each of the computers so they could have a chance. But in all the confusion, no one knows a piece of paper falls to the ground, nor did anyone notice the small, white-furred hand that picked it up. Sally picked her and turned her hand back as the last numbers were drawn. Everyone ready? Ready, Sally, Dulcie called. Then I picked number 5. A low murmur went up as everyone tried to find out who had that number. I know I wrote down a number 5, Sally said. Someone must have it. No! Lydia screamed. Sally turned around to see what was wrong. She was engulfed in a bright light. Robotnik waited patiently for his vision to clear after he was teleported by Donovan. I wish he had another way to do that, he thought. Not being able to see is getting annoying. Greetings, Robotnik, Donovan said. From a light stag in the background, Robotnik knew he was speaking through an intercom of sorts. I will be very brief. You are in a maze. Silly and her companion are on the other side. You make it to the center first, grab the emerald, it's yours. Anything else you want to know? Why have I not been able to see it? Robotnik demanded. I doubt this is a normal side effect of your teleportation. Donovan chuckled. Did I fail to mention that? Most of my traps are illusionary. However, I know for a fact that something in your eyes allows you to see through them. The chuckling grew louder. Therefore, you will go through the maze literally in the dark. Damn you, Donovan! Robotnik swore, pouncing at a wall but missing badly. Good luck, fat boy, Donovan said, laughing hysterically as the intercom disconnected. A door slid open, and Robotnik felt his way through the opening. Wait until I get my hands on him, Robotnik thought. He'll regret ever crossing me. You know, Donnie boy, you are so lucky Robotnik didn't just decide to activate a button on his arm console to summon a bunch of small little bandits from his arm to look over the base and help him. Sally blinked her eyes rapidly, trying to get them to adjust from the bright light of the teleport in the dim light of the room she found herself in. She looked around, trying to see who had come with her, but no one was there. Great, she muttered. Looks like I had to go through this solo. A whimpering came from her leg. Sally looked down and saw Isabella clench her leg, eyes wide with fright. Isabella, what are you doing here? Isabella held up a small piece of paper that had a big 5 written on it. Oh no, Sally groaned. Lydia's going to kill me. You're a day to babysit, silly? Donovan's voice asked from a nearby speaker. I mean, there are safer places to take a 4-year-old, you know. Let her go, Donovan, Sally said. You know she doesn't belong here. I'll go through this myself if I have to. Oh no, silly, Donovan said, holding back his laughter somewhat. You weren't careful enough to make sure she didn't come, so now you have to deal with it. A nearby wall slid aside, revealing a hallway that stretched off into the darkness. Here's your situation. You are in a maze. Robotnik is on the other side. The emerald is in the center. Whoever gets it can have it. You'll have to deal with many illusions. You must figure out what is real and what is not. Any questions? I guess not, Sally muttered, picking Isabella up. It's okay, little one, she said, trying to comfort Isabella. Good, then get going. Robotnik has already started. A click from the speaker indicated that the conversation was over. Sally walked down the hallway, holding Isabella close to her. After a few moments, the hallway opened into a dead-end room. Must have missed a turn, Sally thought, turning around, but then she tried to step outside. A door shut up from the floor, sealing her in. As soon as the door shut, Sally noticed the breeze starting to blow, but she had no idea where it was coming from. There has to be a way out of here, she thought, looking around the room. Isabella said, making a face. What? Isabella pointed at a section of a wall that had worms crawling over it. Disgusting! Isabella declared. Sally looked closely at the wall as the breeze picked up. Part of it was black, but there were so many worms that she could see the design clearly. Fighting back her revulsion, she used one hand to clear some of the worms away. Isabella dropped from Sally's arms and scurried to the opposite corner. Gross! Tell me about it, Sally murmured, swallowing the earth's cigarettes. When she had enough cleared, she saw it was a black circle surrounded by what looked like gold. But near the bottom of the circle was the outline of a winged snake, much as her signet ring looked. In the meantime, the wind had slowly growing stronger and was starting to lift her hair and vest a bit. Woo! She started to slew the worms away for the snake, but they wouldn't budge. Gingerly, Sally put her hands among the worms, feeling the wall. She felt a button and pushed it, immediately pulling her hand back and shaking some worms off. A door opened in the wall near Isabella. Sally walked to her, and they got out just as the wind started to pick up Isabella. Sally looked back and saw a giant fan come out of nowhere, stopping less than an inch from the floor. So that's what Donovan meant by illusion, she thought. He had a fake ceiling over that fan. He's definitely playing by a different set of rules. Tad sat in sanctuary, trying to calm himself through meditation. This is not working, he said, frustrated. I never had trouble controlling my thoughts before, but now they are focusing slowly on Rosie. Oh, so you're frustrated and you're trying to calm yourself through meditation. Oh, okay, I get it. Look, it's honestly meditation. No, man, I understand. I meditate all the time. It is! I believe you. I believe you. He sighed, thinking back to that kiss he gave him while they were alone. All these years I've waited for that. And now it's happened. I can't stop thinking about it. This is no way to go on. If I could interrupt, Knuckles said in his mind, there's a dire emergency. The Craven office making his way towards where the Earth Emerald lies was to pose a serious problem. He cannot be allowed to get an emerald. I understand, Taz said. I will inform the Freedom Fighters at once. Good. Meanwhile, I'll use my magic to try to delay him. Good fortune, Sirat. Tannis stood, his mind cleared and focused. He quickly cast a spell and appeared right in the center of Nahal's war room. It looks like Uncle Chuck was planning to get to that base for some reason, Uncle Chuck was telling the others. I don't know what happened after that. That's probably where the emerald is, Sonic said. Well, now we know. It's a good thing, too, Tannis said, startling everyone. I've just heard some disturbing news for Knuckles. The Craven office headed that way. It doesn't look like random wandering. He must know an emerald is there. Oh, man, Sonic said. We gotta stop him. Who knows what he'll do to Sally if he finds her? I don't mean to sound cold, but that pales in comparison what will happen if he gets an emerald. He couldn't find a way to free chaos with it. We gotta get moving, Sandra said. Uncle Chuck, think you can find the fastest way to get there? Already have it mapped out, Uncle Chuck said, handing her a piece of paper. Dulcie, take as many as you can carry and follow me and Sandra, Sonic said. I'm coming on too. Don't forget me, Lydia said. After all, that's my cousin and daughter in there. Sonic nodded. Anyone else? Bunny and Antoine stood up. All right, let's get going. Good fortunes, Tana said as they headed off. He was about to leave when he saw Sandra had grabbed Nicole in her haste and left Nadia on the table. He picked her up and saw a bunch of numbers flashing across her screen. What are you doing? I'm trying every frequency in existence to find Donovan's, Nadia said quickly. He has to know the Craven is coming. Thomas nodded. When you get into contact with him, I'll send you to Sandra. Deal? Deal. Robotnik felt blindly along the hallway, muttering curses with every few steps. Finally, he felt his way to a room and heard the door close behind him. Robotnik triggered a button on the floor and a speaker came to life. Incoming, recorded message, came a strange voice. Hello, Robotnik. Donovan's voice came. If you're hearing this, that means you stepped into room 738. What that means is that as soon as this message ends, you'll have 3 minutes to find a keypad and a 3-digit code which is locked somewhere in this room. As time passes, the air will get sucked out of this room. Needless to say what will happen if you don't find your way out. Word of advice. Memorize that code. You'll need it again. End of message. Immediately, Robotnik heard two side fans drawing air from the room. He felt along the walls quickly, searching for them. He found the keypad, but the code was nowhere to be found. 2 minutes, said that strange voice. Robotnik made another circuit of the room, but still no luck. 1 minute. The voice warned. Robotnik fell to his hands and knees, getting dizzier as the oxygen was depleted. He felt a small plate move beneath his hand. Quickly, he reached his fingers into the hole covered and felt his raised numbers beneath his fingers. 724, Robotnik read. 30 seconds. Robotnik forced himself back to his feet and to his keypad. He felt the buttons pressed, the right sequence just as the voice started. Times. Donovan watched as Robotnik fell to the floor and the ceiling opened. Very lucky, Robotnik, he said with a sadistic grin on his face. He turned to another monitor to watch Sally and Isabella struggle to another of his traps. Hopefully they won't be so lucky, so I can teleport them back. I don't really care which one messes them up, but I do want one of them to. The computer hair on his belt started cracking. Donovan, are you there? This is an emergency. Nadia? Donovan asked in surprise, pulling the communicator from his belt. This is Donovan. What's up, Nadia? Donovan? Thank the Almighty I found the right frequency. Kravenov's on his way. What? Donovan screamed. He turned to the console and punched up the security cameras on the nearest monitor. Nothing was there. Nadia, if this is your idea of a joke, Donovan began threateningly. No, I swear. Tannis warned us about it. The others are under their way to try to stop him, but they don't know how to fight him like you do. Donovan connected to the console to the computer at his home base. Computer, estimate distance between me and Kavanov and calculate the direction of travel. Accessing, the computer said in a voice like Donovan's own. Donovan, was that your father's voice I heard? Nadia asked in what could be turned on. I used the gift you gave me last Christmas to program my computer with his voice, Donovan explained. Assessment complete, his computer said. The Kavanov is approximately 1,700 meters away from your location and closing. That gives me about 30 minutes, Donovan reasoned. Plenty of time to organize a suitable welcome for him, he said, smiling. I don't like your tone of voice, Donovan, Nadia said, worried. What are you planning on doing? The less you know, the better, Donovan said, standing. A dull electricity shot through him from his communicator. Snap out of it, Nadia yelled. What did you do that for? Donovan yelled back. You're starting to sound like a Kavanov. Get control of yourself. I'll get control, all right. After I see to it that this is the Kavanov's last day on Mobius, he yelled, grabbing his sword. Is that what your father would want? Nadia asked in a low voice. Donovan stopped dead in his tracks. Father? Do you think he wants his son to become that thing? You know it'll possess you too if you kill it. How will you ever get him back then? Donovan stared at a blank monitor. When he saw staring back at him, shocked and stared at him. By the Almighty, what have I become? He whispered, slipping back into his seat. Nothing you can't change, Nadia said. Now stop feeling sorry for yourself and figure out a way to stop him. You know the others can't fight him for long. They may not have to, Donovan said, calling out the layout of the building. Nadia, when I give the word, have them herd Kavanov toward the north entrance of the building. I'll have something waiting for him. Nothing deadly, I hope, Nadia said. No, just annoying, he said in his old voice. You don't know how good it is to hear you back to yourself, Squirrel Boy. Donovan chuckled, but it was a warm chuckle. If it weren't for you, Nadine, you might never have heard that again. He switched off the communicator and started typing away at a nearby keyboard. Sally and Isabella emerged into the hallway, gasping for breath. Both were covered from head to toe in mud. Glad that's over, Sally muttered, glaring back at the room they just came from. That was fun, Isabella said. Sally rolled her eyes. She was about to say something when a mud ball hit her squarely in the face. She quivered from her eyes and saw Isabella scraping more mud from her dress and forming a ball. Just as he was about to throw it, Sally pushed it into her face. "Serves you right," Sally said, wiping what mud she could off herself. "I'd love to continue this, but I'm sure Robotnik isn't waiting." So Isabella sobbed. "I'm sorry, Aunt Sally," she said. "It's okay," Sally said, smiling suddenly. "Feel good to be called Aunt Sally again. Tails doesn't do it as much anymore." Isabella smiled. She grabbed hold of Sally's hand and he started walking down the hallway. It didn't take long for Sally to realize something was wrong. The floor looked clean, but she felt like she was wading through water. She looked down and saw that the floor came up to her knees. "Another illusion," Sally said, picking Isabella up. "Well, at least I could fly over it." Sally tried to fly up, but found her feet were stuck. She retreated back to where she could see her feet and tried again. This time she was able to fly, and headed briefly towards the door at the far end. When she was about halfway across, a hard hand shot up from the floor and grabbed her. Before she had time to do anything but scream in surprise, it pulled her and Isabella down to the liquid under the floor. Sally looked at Isabella above her head, as everything from the shoulders down was now under the illusion. She slowly made her way back to the true floor with no other incidents. "Very tricky, Donovan," Sally thought, trying to comfort hysterical Isabella. "Let's see if I can run across." Once Isabella calmed, Sally held her close and activated her engagement ring. As the light surrounded her, she revved up her legs and took off. The hand made another grab for her, but she ran right through it. As soon as she did, the far door began shutting. Sally pushed herself to her limits and tried to make it through the door. The door closed before Sally made it there, but she continued to run. She touched the ball, protecting Isabella, and struck the door at full speed. The metal hissed and bubbled as she melted through the floor. But she was protected by the energy of her engagement power ring, so no harm could come to her. She burst through and landed on the other side, uncurling as soon as she touched some of the ground. "I can't imagine how Sonic could do that all the time," Sally said, swaying unsteadily. "You like being Sally?" Isabella asked. "Yeah, I guess. We better keep moving." She set Isabella down, and they started walking down the hallway. "There he is!" Sonic yelled, pointing to the skunk that was tearing a path of destruction through the caverns. "Gosh, Jeffrey, I knew you were an asshole, but this is getting ridiculous." "We gotta catch him before he gets through them," Sandra yelled back. A light appeared in front of Sandra, moving with her as she ran. Nadia appeared out of the light, and Sandra faintly saw Tannis waving in the light before her. "Nadia?" Sandra asked. "But I thought—" "You grabbed Nicole by mistake," Nadia said. "Now listen, no time to explain. Donovan and I got a plan worked out." "Donovan?" Lydia asked, adjusting her grip on Sandra's waist. "The same Donovan who's doing this with the emerald?" "No time for that," Nadia snapped. "When I give the signal, try to hurry the cave-in off to the north side of the building." "How can we trust him?" Lydia asked. "Just do it," Nadia screamed angrily. "I trust Donovan completely, now that I woke him up. If you don't want to trust him, then trust me." "Sounds good to me," Sonic said. "Besides, he's the only one other than my parents who have dealt with the cave-in off on a regular basis. My parents ain't here." "All right, Nadia," Sandra said. "We'll wait on your signal. This help Dulcie and the others don't try to do anything before we get there." "I'll tell him," Tails said, flying out through a small hole in the cavern's roof. Lydia had grown very quiet all of a sudden. "Those words Nadia used, they seemed so familiar," she thought. An image of Dorian appeared in her mind as she smiled, forgetting her earlier train of thought. Robotnik felt along the hallway to another door. The room he had came from steadily got hotter and hotter till he found a keypad. He was still having a hard time breathing. Fortunately, he was getting close to the center and had most of the part memorized. "That door should be right around here," he muttered a few choice curses. His fingers felt the door frame inside, and here we are. He walked through the door, knowing that the center room was only 3 more rooms away. A loud hissing sound from the far end of the room. "Gas!" Robotnik thought in surprise. "I have to find that keypad." He felt along the walls quickly. When he got near the hissing, strong metal band surrounded his arms and waist. hissing that was coming from the bands, and Robotnik felt the bands to wonder. Robotic snakes, he realized. How ironic. Still, they shouldn't be too. A snake wrapped around his throat and started squeezing him with incredible strength. Robotnik grabbed at the snake and tried to pull it off, but it wouldn't budge. He felt along for the head, trying to get some leverage. He couldn't find the head, but did find a set of 9 buttons on the snake. The keypad! Robotnik realized, hurriedly punching in the code. The snake's grip tightened. What the? Robotnik punched in the code again, but the snake only squeezed more. Then an idea occurred to him. Which way's up on this thing? He twisted his head around and tried to find the code again. This time the snakes let go and heard them retracting to the walls. A door slid open and he tumbled through it, coughing and gasping for breath. That was close, he thought. He leaned against the wall for a few minutes until he could breathe easily again, then set off down for the corridor. Sandra watched as the Kamenov emerged from the caverns, heading straight for the building. We gotta do something, she whispered fiercely to Sonic. Don't you think I know that? He demanded. But we promised to wait. Nadia started beeping before Sandra could get an answer. Get going, she said. All right, Sonic and Sandra said, high-fiving each other. Kamenov turned to look at them. Oh, the joy I'm about to receive, he said, cackling, for the misery I'm about to give. He glanced at Sandra and Lydia. Gotta catch me first, Sandra said, taking off one way while Sonic ran down the other. More speedsters, Alexei said. Well, the hunt will only make the kill that much sweeter. He ran off after Sandra, swinging his rune sword threateningly. Hey, up here, Dulcie called. Alexei stopped and looked. A dragon, even better. So much mass, so much potential for misery. You calling me that? Dulcie screeched. She let loose an icy blast at the Kamenov, but missed. All that ended up ice was the ground. You'd have to do better than that, Alexei chuckled. Will he be doing fine? Antoine asked from behind him. Alexei turned to look just as Antoine and Bunnie hit him with a double shoulder block. The Kamenov took a couple of steps back and ended up skidding on the icy path right towards the building. Tails looked at the end of the ice and opened the door. Have fun, he called, waving to the skunk as he slid past. Soon he was through. Tails slammed shut the door. Welcome, Kamenov, David said, drawing his sword. Come to do battle again. I'm always ready for the game, Alexei said, standing up. But this time, I should win. David slowly circling to Kamenov, making sure to keep one certain square of floor between them. Well then, let's have at it. Alexei jumped at Donovan, clearing the square easily. Donovan had barely enough time to bring up his sword before the skunk was upon him. Donovan tried to force Alexei onto the square, but the skunk kept avoiding it. I know your tricks, Kamenov sneered. You'll die here! Donovan fought his way under the rune sword and tried to push Alexei bodily into the square, but Alexei held his ground and grabbed Donovan by the throat. This game is mine, he said, lifting Donovan off the floor. The door opened. Donovan, close your eyes, Nadia yelled as Sandra slid her in. Donovan shut his eyes as the Kamenov slid toward the door. A bright flash of light came from Nadia's screen, blinding Alexei. Alexei dropped Donovan and held his eyes, screaming his pain. Donovan struck his leg out and tripped him, sending the skunk headfirst into the pit, covered by the illusionary square. You didn't kill him, did you? Nadia asked, worried. Nah, just teleport him to a nice, quiet, serene forest with no one around for miles, he said with a grin. And Nadia had a face. I'm still seeing a young teenager, Lynx with a little big hat, a little black tank top. That's my Donovan, she said. Welcome back. Donovan had a warm smile. If you excuse me, Nadia, I have a contest to see finished. But I do have one question for you, Sandra. What possessed you to slide in Nadia when you did? It wasn't my idea, Sandra said, walking up and picking at Nadia. She's the one who had a gut feeling about it, as she turned it. Donovan looked at Nadia and smiled, and shook his head and walked away. Thanks again, Nadia, he whispered as he walked through the illusionary wall. Sally and Isabella peered carefully into the room, looking for anything that might be a trap. The room was large and spacious, but full of electronic equipment. In one corner of the room was a small pile of stones, pretty but not unusual. What caught Sally's immediate attention was the glowing green gem on a pedestal in the center of the room. "The emerald!" she exclaimed. "It will be mine," Robotnik said, appearing in the doorway in the opposite of the room. Sally ripped up her legs, getting ready to sprint for the emerald. "Bring stones!" Isabella said, laughing. She ran to the pile in the corner and started playing with a couple of stones. "Mommy will like them." "Isabella!" Sally yelled, distracted. She saw Robotnik stumbling towards the emerald, arms outstretched as if he couldn't see. She started to run for the emerald, but suddenly stopped her dead in her tracks. A large block of stone was falling directly above Isabella. Within seconds, it would crush her. Sally knew she would not have time to save her and get the emerald. Sally ran towards Isabella at full speed. She scooped up the child just as the block came down on the floor and she had been sitting. It disappeared. Another illusion, Sally realized. Robotnik's groping hand found the pedestal and lifted the emerald from his depression. "Looks like you lose this one, princess," he sneered. "Perhaps not, Donovan." Doctor, Donovan said, seemingly appearing from nowhere. He pressed the button on the remote he held. "I just deactivated all the illusions in here. It'll take a few minutes for all of them to power down." "I don't care about you now," Robotnik said, blinking his eyes as his visit returned. "All I care about is what I have here in my hand." Yes, that would be important, I suppose," Donovan said, smiling. Robotnik arched an eyebrow and opened his hand. Instead of the emerald, he was holding a reddish stone, and faintly hummed with power. "What is this?" "You should have known, Robotnik, that not all in this maze was what it seemed," Donovan cautioned. "I placed 2 power sources in this room. It's not my fault you went for the wrong one. Feel free to keep it, though, as a consolation for your destroyed factory." Robotnik's eyes glowed with anger. His gaze swiveled around and came to rest on Isabella, who was still in Sally's arms. "Beautiful child," Donovan said at the same time, walking toward her, "and very much like her mother. May I see the stone, please?" Isabella silently handed the stone over to her. "Malachite, I believe," Donovan said. "Similar to the stone I gave Linda for her birthday one year, wasn't it?" Sally nodded immediately, suddenly aware where this conversation was headed. Donovan brushed away a fine powder from the crystal, and suddenly exploded into a greenish light. He picked up another gem from the pile in the corner and gave it to Isabella. "This one suits you better," he said, pressing it into her tiny hand as he gave the emerald to Sally. Isabella nodded, smiling. Sally breathed a huge sigh of relief. "So then, we won?" she asked carefully. "No. There are still 4 other emeralds out there. However, you do have possession of this particular emerald. As such, you lead in a race. Doctor, my services are at your disposal, assuming you can find me." Robotnik was ready to argue, but Donovan held up another remote with a countdown flashing on it. "You can stay and argue if you like, but I wouldn't recommend it." Donovan bowed and disappeared in a flash of light. As soon as he disappeared, the pedestal in the room was revealed to be a time bomb. Sally didn't even look twice. She drew out as much air as she could handle from the engagement ring, ran out of the building as fast as she could. Even so, the explosion was on her heels as she emerged from the building. "Sal!" Sonic yelled, catching her in his arms as she nearly fell. "Isabella!" Lydia screamed, pulling her from Sally's arm and holding her close. "Mommy!" Isabella said, throwing her arms around her mother's neck. "Are you okay, honey?" Lydia asked worriedly, looking into her daughter's face. "Mm-hmm. Isabella gave her mother the stone she had carried. Lydia looked down at the stone in surprise. "I used to have one like this. Wait a minute. That's the same Donovan who did this?" "Mommy, Miss Linda." Lydia laughed and hugged Isabella. "I'll tell you later." Sally tried to push away from Sonic, but was too weak from everything that had happened. "I'm fine, Sonic," she murmured. "Boy, do I have a tale to tell you guys." "That can wait until you're rested," he said, picking her up and cradling her like Linda was cradling Isabella. "The most important thing right now is to get you some rest." Sally shook her head weakly. She opened her hand, revealing the emerald. "No, Sonic, this is." Sonic kissed her forehead and took off her knothole, leaving the others to manage on their own. Donovan sighed as he watched everyone disperse from a nearby cliff. He had made sure the robotic had gotten out safely. All that was left to do was destroy the chips he had given so they could not be traced. Press of a button, and it was done. Yet he lingered, watching the building as it smoked and burned. Oh, there was no cause for alarm. It was just that he had a lot to think about. I came so close today becoming that which I fight, he thought. If it weren't for the efforts of both Tanis and Nadia, I might have. He sighed, looking at the building but not really seeing it. What did you think you were doing? Knuckles demanded, suddenly appearing at his side. They could have all been killed. Or, if you had that covered, as you say you did, the Kavanoff could have gotten the emerald. Do you realize the harm that would have done? Donovan sat there, not even bothering to respond. Knuckles continued to chew him out for a few moments, but then stopped. Seeing that he was getting no response, he waved a hand in front of Donovan's face. Donovan simply stood up and walked away, not uttering a sound. Knuckles watched him go. There goes a heavy halt, he thought. There must be something I could do to lighten this load. Donovan walked clearly into his main base and slumped down to the first chair he saw. He vaguely noticed an unusual light blinking on his main control panel. Computer status, he said tiredly. He vaguely noticed the unusual light blinking on his main control panel. Computer status, he said tiredly. There is a recorded message waiting for you, his computer answered. Donovan raised one eyebrow. A message from who? It appears to be from Nadia. How did she... Never mind, playback message. Hiya, Donovan. Nadia's voice came. I figured you might be feeling bad about everything that happened today. So I have something for you that might just cheer you up. Oh, don't worry. I'll keep your frequency and location secret. Donovan raised himself up in his chair as the holographic projector activated. It took a few seconds for his image to clarify, but when it did, Donovan's eyes widened. A smile touched his lips and brightened his eyes. I don't know which is worse, he thought, standing up. The fact that she feels this way, or the fact that I do. Computer, he said aloud, save image. Saving, his computer said. Oh my god, did she strip for him? Come on, guys, you can be honest with me. Was Nadia stripping in that computer image? Was she doing a sexy dance for Donovan? Because if she was, we got questions. Donovan walked towards his room. A smile came on his face. The image that hung in the hair was an embroidered heart with a very simple message in its perfect cursive. Donovan, I love you. Nadia. Okay, so we got some interesting stories to tell. Actually, this does make me think of that one movie where a guy falls in love with an AI program. I forgot what it was called. I've actually been kind of curious because Craig mentioned it and it sounds like a cool story. Although on the other hand, this is the beginning of some Twilight Zone stories. On the other hand, I refuse to go down the dark path and thus imagine that Nadia is in fact humanity's companion. Thank you.